Hello, everybody. This is Phil, and I'm feeling a lot better. Thank you. I'm doing a couple different videos about the Constitution and how people just overlook it because we read it, possibly in high school, possibly in college. Then we overlook it and just assume it's there to protect us. Now, with our government basically under the NDAA, violating a lot of these core principles, okay, of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, especially with how they track us down online or anything we do online. There's some history that I've researched that the federal government actually promoted the making of the internet, so to speak, and basically wants to entice Americans to use online resources more so they can track what we're doing. By GPS alone, for instance, they can track wherever that phone on your hip goes all over the United States and all over the world. Okay. That's why they made a super mainframe computer in Utah. Okay, I forgot all the terabytes and everything and what they call it after the terabytes, where basically you can stack up with all the bytes of information that they can take in and store away, okay, and bring it up on a second's notice to track down what you did over a span of what 11 years since there's been the internet where you can interact with it. They have said that the number of gigabytes in an actual iPhone, if you stack up all the phones and keep on going towards the moon, okay, it would double back, I think, 2.5 times with all the terabytes and total bytes. They basically have recording millions of Americans' data and information. They can even research phone calls, and the phones and these systems can remember what we say and repeat it like a computer program with that computer mongolized voice, okay, and can repeat the same conversation we had with people. Okay, I watch InfoWars most of the time, and they were talking about these numbers that go back to 2005 with all the data of InfoWars phone numbers and Donald Trump. That's how long the NSA has been tracking, quote unquote, interesting people. Okay, and again, this is all after 9/11, especially, and they're looking for ways to track people. Terrorists call each other on the phone. Okay, criminals call each other on the phone. But what gives the NSA the actual rights beforehand to take any kind of perceived property, even if it's from a corporation? Okay. And there's civil liability from the corporation and the individual's data that we do not give to them to give to the NSA. It's a civil matter if we want to sue Google, if we want to sue YouTube, if we want to sue Facebook and Twitter, because they're giving the NSA all our information free, or they're getting paid for it. That's even worse, okay, when I start reciting the First Amendment. Okay, because that's communication. It's also violating the Fourth Amendment right. Okay. Unreasonable search and seizures. Remember my earlier videos? Okay. So what gives anybody, including the president, Congress, the Supreme Court, and all the agencies underneath the president, what gives them the right to track us down? To start curtailing our free speech, especially when these companies are monopolies. Okay? They're hegemonic monopolies, and they will collect all our data and corral us into these internet ghettos. And they will just turn over our information. Well, the CIA planned it that way. You know? The CIA also basically funds the Washington Post. Okay? With Bezos. Bezos bought the Washington Post for what? $250 million? Okay? But he got like $600 million from the CIA, so he's basically, through our government and a CIA agency, basically propagandizing us with anti-American sentiment. Name it. Anything against Trump. Name it. It's anti-American. it's unconstitutional as well. And I will explain that in the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights don't only apply to the individual, they apply to everybody, including the government. The government, the Founding Fathers did not want to grow bloated like it is and extend too much power to control the American citizens. Okay. But again, whoever developed the internet, more power to them. It's a great way to go online and communicate with people, whether politics or not. It's a good way to go online and do social things. It's a good way to have fun and go online and go shopping and buy things cheaper. It's a great tool. But psychologically, it's also made, the CIA knew this, to control us because we could become more addicted to it. We feel we have to live with that, and we can okay people eavesdropping on our phone calls or checking all the places we went to and bought handguns and I don't know, even a vacation online 3 years ago. They're going to research it back then and say, oh, you were in that location when something bad happened. Okay? Do you mind explaining that to us? It's none of your damn business if you didn't get an actual handwritten warrant. And I mean typewritten warrant. I don't mean something you just put in the computer and a judge from FISA sends back an okay because he's a liberal too that wants you to violate everybody's rights. I mean a real warrant with a real crime you're describing at the exact time a crime occurred. Okay? Or like my earlier video suggests, as a crime is occurring, will occur, or had occurred. Okay? Specific, particularly to the places to be searched. That's my iPhone. I pay for this iPhone. No one else has a right to take my data and sell it to NSA for future investigations. If they want to do a Second Amendment roundup, oh, this guy has a lot of information. Yeah, he bought all this ammo online over a 10-year period when he had a son. He basically wanted to protect his son and teach his growing son the beauty of weapons and gun safety and the historical value of having guns. Okay? Being self-sufficient. The government is going to turn around and target me and him. So I'm doing a series of videos basically describing these Bill of Rights. Okay? So let me start with this. Let me read it first and do the comma thing. And then I'll try to break it down for you. Okay? These are things every American should read over and over again, understand it. Then call their congressmen and their senators and ask, what the hell? What is wrong with this NDAA? I never signed on for you to get all my information online. I pay for my Wi-Fi in my house. I pay for my Alexa, which I won't buy anyways, but I'm just saying. I pay for that Echo, and I want expedience. That's what I pay for. I don't pay for you to investigate me 10 years later, 15 years later. Okay, so let's go this. Let's do this, and I'll read it real quick. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment or religion, comma, or prohibition the free exercise thereof. I'm sorry, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Okay? Semicolon. Or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press. Semicolon. Or the right of the people peaceably to assemble, comma, and to petition the government for redress of grievances. Okay. So, if you look at this, it's basically broken down in main sections. Okay, let's go over the first section. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. The founders understood dealing with England and being raised in England and having English jurisprudence. Okay, if the king said something about the church and the church agreed with him, people were getting killed. Okay, whether you're a Protestant or Catholic, okay, they wanted free religion, period. They wanted a government that was free from religion, period. So it's plain and simple English. Congress shall make no law. That means they can't tax our churches and say, we're nonprofits. Okay, we're not nonprofits, and you have to pay taxes. They cannot tax churches ever. Okay? And look what happened during Obama's reign, especially with the IRS and all their corruption. Or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Look at elementary schools. Look at our regular public schools, okay? Or prohibiting the exercise thereof. That means any citizen, especially a child, can worship what they want, when they want, especially in school. Perhaps they're not allowed to indoctrinate other kids, or them trying to indoctrinate the system or the teachers to exercise one religion or another. But the government cannot tell Christians they cannot pray in school when it's appropriate free time. At the beginning or at the ending of the day, at lunchtime, or whenever they have a break. When did it come with the Supreme Court and all these idiots on the liberal Supreme Court saying, oh my God, we can't say it's okay for the Christians to pray there? Okay, because that would be us basically encouraging it. That was never the law. The law was you leave them alone. If it interferes with school, you tell them, okay, you'll have free time to pray on your break when you want to do A, B, and C. Okay, if you want to bring your friends, you can, but you cannot demand anybody else do it with you, okay? Most kids would understand that. They would understand you're respecting their rights. They would understand you're not totalitarian and letting a bunch of Muslims in. And they have to study, the Christians have to study what the hell Islam is. What the hell Sharia is. Okay? When did all this stuff happen? Look at the globalists taking over America post-World War II. Liberal and communist in nature from the inside out, trying to rot us at our core. Pick up the Bible. Every chance you can in public, it doesn't matter, in front of a freaking synagogue or mosque. You pick up the Bible and you read the Bible wherever the fuck you want to. Because the government can't do anything about it, and neither can the individual other religions. So if you're speaking to a fellow Muslim or a fellow Jew, respect them. Jesus never said go out of your way to disrespect people. Okay? But don't be disrespected either. Don't be assaulted. Don't be killed because of that Bible you care about. And Jesus will strengthen you, trust me. Okay, the next section. Or abridging freedom of speech, comma, or of the press. Very simple. Abridge means to curtail. Okay, it means basically to shorten something, especially a book, a movie, or speech. Okay, this is very specific. When we're on these monopolies online and we're spouting off because we're conservatives and we're trying to, join like-minded people, but we're trying to express our opinions based on facts. Okay, when they start curtailing our free speech, they're basically abridging it. Okay, if they're a monopoly, they cannot be a monopoly and then only get one political party and cut them off. Okay, what did Zuckerberg say? Zuckerberg, whatever his name is, say one time? In essence, Facebook is a public utility. Okay, if it's a public utility, then you cannot violate other people's constitutional right to free speech. So let's go over this. Abridging the freedom of speech, comma, or of the press. Okay, abridging the freedom of speech means curtailing anybody's free speech, comma, or of the press. The press are the first ones to tell you, you're not going to violate our rights. We can sit there and call you all the names in the world, Mr. Trump. Okay? And they have. See how Nazi they are? See how communist in nature they are? They're Nazi in their actions to bring about a result of their own communism. Okay, so they're Nazis? They're more communists, but they use Nazi tactics, Stalininsky tactics, Marxist tactics to bring in their communism. Okay? nobody can abridge your free speech. I don't care if it's in a movie theater and you yell fire and it was a practical joke. You should be demonized for the rest of your life for a word, depending on the location. Think about that. A lot of liberal and elitist thinking say that analogy, so they always come back. Oh, well, you said something that is offensive. Well, you telling me I can't speak is very offensive when you're trying to kill me. That's what the real politicians should say against the liberals and the elitists. Okay, the real politicians there to save us, to protect us. Okay, freedom of speech is free everywhere in America. That's what millions and millions of our soldiers died for over the last 200 years. Okay, the press should not be receiving actually 1 red cent from our federal government. Okay, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. I did that earlier. Or, as in also, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press. What part of that shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or speech can't you figure out as an English major? Can't you figure out as just Joe Blow that never went to school but read that and said, yeah, that's how I was raised. We're all free here. Yeah, I understand it. What part of that doesn't the elitists understand? The government understand. So I digress, but let's continue on to the next segment. Or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. This is very simple, okay? Those first 2 parts are the one that trips up all these elitists that still want to control us and make conflict so that they can always tell their constituents there's conflict. I have a solution for you. I can stay in power, but you got to vote for me. I'm here for you, okay? What is it? You make it the crisis, then you offer a solution, and you basically, take more and more of these Bill of Rights away because of, what do they call it, case law, that the Supreme Court okays over and over again, or someone allows and they don't know any better, and they allow it over and over again, okay? These elitists and liberals, they want you stupid so they can control you easier. Okay, excuse me. So let's go over this. The first segment, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble. Now, there are guidelines about that, okay? 1 million people going on one street to peaceably assemble right outside of a bunch of citizens' house because they want to intimidate them is not really peaceably assembling, okay? That's intimidation. And it also blocks thoroughfares where other citizens have the right to move, okay, and assemble elsewhere, so to speak. Their locomotion is seized. So what transpires when something like that happens? Remember all the Occupy idiots? Remember all those guys blocking the thoroughfares and camping out weeks on end and defecating all over the place and raping women? Those were the same Marxist Leninists using Stalininsky tools and basically wrecking the judicial system because the police basically cordoned them in and didn't do anything else to help the regular citizens that still had to go to work. Okay? Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, yada yada, and the right of the people peaceably to assemble. That means the government should not choose either way against what the content of the assembly is, for or against. Under the Equal Protection Clause, okay, which is another Bill of Rights, the federal government needs to protect the freedom of speech and also their assembly when they do, but also respect the normal citizens' right to free speech and assembly and move about also. So there are laws that are legal to arrest these law violators of the First Amendment. It's open and shut. But look at de Blasio, look at Obama back then too. Oh, yeah, they want chaos because the more chaos there is, the more American citizens are basically hampered and stifled and perhaps set back millions of dollars with all these riots. And then they're more reliant on the federal government also. So they want people hurt, if not killed. So everybody else is easily controlled. It's open and shut. Then the second part of this last part, and to petition the government for redress of grievances. What does that mean? Very simply, it means if you have something that you want to address with the federal government or your state government, to the state level, they usually okay redress of grievances one way or another. Some states are not good at it, but for the federal government, you have redress of grievances, meaning you should be able to take it to any federal court when something really drastically happened wrong, or there's some kind of grievance that put you back, especially your rights, or the federal government seizing your money, like forfeiture illegally against the Constitution. All these are acts of the Congress over the last 40 years started making up as they went along and thinking, oh, the American public are not paying attention. But thinking of that, of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. That means there has to be an opportunity for you as a citizen to go to one court and file. Okay? It doesn't mean you go all over the place and you cause anarchy just because you're pissed off. That's sedition. That's also in the Constitution, but not under the Bill of Rights. It's also treason if it was a wartime situation and you're causing all this havoc inside the United States and perhaps blowing up things or perhaps attacking people, in any kind of metropolitan center because it's political and you're acting somewhat Nazi. I mean, literally Nazi. Look at the old brown shirts underneath Hitler and the political opponents they destroyed. Okay? So it's very simple. This last part, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for redress of grievances. That means you can go and protest the government also. But that word peaceably means you do it in a peaceful manner, and you do it by some ordinances that are there to protect other citizens and their rights. It's very simple, but it could be looked at as very vague. So the Occupy guys were basically Alinskyites, back then, and Obama let it go on, and they tore up downtown Wall Street, and then they started tearing up more and more streets. What about these Antifa bastards? What about Black Lives Matter? Okay, they're funded by George Soros, who is an American citizen, but he's been Hungarian all his life, and he's like an original Nazi. Okay, as a kid throughout World War II that turned in the Jews. He wants to destabilize America. And he's funding Black Lives Matter and he's funding Antifa. And they're going around and they're protesting white people trying to protect their First Amendment speech. And these Antifa and Black Lives Matter are calling the white people Nazis. And bringing bike locks and bringing their own guns and trying to intimidate every time you try to speak. They start blocking you out or pushing you away. Putting signs in front of your voice. When you're peaceably assembling and you're exercising your First Amendment speech. Okay, the government not arresting Antifa, not arresting Black Lives Matter, not arresting all these liberal idiots on colleges that are being violent to American patriots. Every one of those police departments should be sued for multi-millions of dollars for not enforcing the law equally. Okay? It's a First Amendment rights violation that is basically we need to protect. But then the police coming in and charging us with crimes when we defend ourselves is an equal rights violation. That's a whole nother amendment. They have to apply the law equally to everybody. Okay? They either have to remove the instigators completely off to the side and take them somewhere else. They have to separate them, or they have to arrest them. But as you see, they were paid off by the liberals and the communists. Okay? Antifa and Black Lives Matter are only using Nazi tactics. Their end goal is communism, and that means we're oppressed more and more. So, like anything else, if you see something else in the amendments, okay, and you know in your heart something's wrong, but you can't articulate what it is, go back and look it up online. Read the Constitution word for word, study it, and then teach your family it. Okay? If you have a family member that can't read, literally some people can't read it aloud to them so they know. Is your son or daughter disabled where they couldn't understand this if you speak to them aloud? Okay? Perhaps they can't read, but they would understand exactly what you're saying. That's what makes America great, because we have these preamble and the Bill of Rights that pertain to us as individuals. And to a lesser extent, some of us as a group, as a whole. Okay? The American patriot, if anything. Thank you, guys. If you can share this, I would greatly appreciate it, because we have to start educating our friends, our fellow coworkers, okay, our peers, and we have to start teaching our children immediately, or this is going to get out of hand for the next 50 years. Okay? Trump was elected a year ago, and the liberal scourge, the liberal criminals, the liberal traitors are still not arrested yet. Blame Trump or not, but our system is protecting them, regardless of whether Trump's in the office or not. But nothing's going to change if we don't educate our children first. You know, individualism, freedom, the right to say what you want when you want to, the right to own property, the right to move when you want, the right to walk down the street and buy a 12-pack of beer when you want, when you turn 18 or 21. Okay? The right to educate yourself and be free from indoctrination. The right to go to church when you want. Okay? The right to arm yourself to protect your house and your family. All these have been going on for 200 years, and now all of a sudden, well, the communists have been around for, over 60 years. But now all of a sudden, they really want to make it mainstream to make people psychologically unsound by indoctrinated education. And they want to violate everybody else's rights that are basically 40 years old and above. The people that know what the law means, that knows what it means to own a weapon and carry it and protect your family and your life and your community and your state and your United States with it. Okay? Read the First Amendment and learn it. I'm just going to say this one more time. I'm just going to repeat it. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, semicolon, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, semicolon, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. There you go. Don't worry about the Supreme Court, because you can always go back to if you have to appeal something, you can always go eventually to the Supreme Court, and they can change whatever case law in the past they had, because that's what matters. The First Amendment is what matters, not case law that a bunch of liberals might have discussed 20 years ago. Okay? Times change, yes, but we have to go back to the original meaning. That's what it means. Not some kind of case law that they wanted to basically indoctrinate the American public with. Be safe out there, guys. Have a great time. Read your Bill of Rights and read your preamble and read the Constitution as best you can, as much as you can. Thank you.